for this episode 4 of the Zero to Hero Challenge by Rusty Money Gaming here on Maizy Lou Farms with me, Farmer Murphy. Well, it is the first day of a new month here on the farm. Now, if all went well, you will have seen a cinematic of the first 3 contracts that I completed for this month. And I want to show you this. Look at the state of our equipment. You can tell I haven't been anywhere near a wash bay. It's the truck that really amazes me. You look, our truck looks brown. It's actually black. Underneath all of that, there's a black truck there. Yes, it's been doing some work. But anyways, this I'm hoping is going to be a very exciting episode if everything goes to plan. You know how often that happens around here. But anyways, if we go in and collect on those 3 contracts that you saw the cinematic on, we'll go in over here. We did a cultivating for 22,000. We did a harvesting for almost 12,000. And we did a plowing for 9,300. Let's just jump in the shop quick so we can see what our balance is. So that took us to 385,000. So if we go back into contracts again and we look at the contracts here, we have quite a nice list. Some nice cultivating jobs, a couple more, smallish harvesting jobs, good sized plowing jobs, and then some sowing ones, and finally a rock picking one. Well, if I add the revenue from all of those contracts to our current monies, we would be at $705,000. So what I'm going to do off camera is I am going to do all of these contracts. And I'm not going to put you through all of that. I'm not going to bother showing myself accepting them and collecting them. I think you've seen enough of that. I'm just going to go ahead and do all of those off camera, and I'm hoping, it seems very likely to me, that some additional contracts will pop in there throughout the course of doing that batch, that when we meet up here for you in just a moment, for me much later in time, we're going to be able to buy our first farm. That's my exciting plan. But one thing I will fill you in on is if we go into the shop here and look at seeders, because those are all seeding contracts, I am going to purchase one of 2 seeders I'm going to show you here if something doesn't come up in the used store in the meantime. The most likely one that I'll buy is this Massey Ferguson one for 12,000. It's 4.5, nearly 4.5 meters. That's the most likely culprit. If we get a bunch of really nice contracts that drop in there, I might invest in this Kokering one for 44,000. That's 6 meters and a larger seed tank. But I was going to be one of those 2 that I will purchase, like I said, unless something comes up in the used department to do those seeding contracts. And the stone picking one, I give up. I'm just going to probably likely borrow the equipment for that. If, like I said, I have to do that to get to our 764,000, I think it is, in that vicinity anyways. So in just a moment, you'll see how that all comes together. And like I said, for me, it's going to be a while, but I am going to get cracking on that list of contracts. Of course, those contracts, the exact number is like 705,000. We'll probably end up slightly under that just due to worker fees and fuel costs and that sort of thing. But anyways, enough of that kibitzing. Let's get to work here on the farm. And like I said, hopefully when you see me next, we'll be buying a farm. So see you in just a minute. Well, guys, it is midday of the last day of the month. And if we take a look at our money here in the shop, you can see we're at 808,000. We made it. but I'll tell you, it was a near thing. Yesterday, we finished the day off at 760,000, and we hadn't had any contracts at all for the last third of the day. So we had been sitting contract list for a while, so much so that I started going through all of our equipment here to see what I might be able to sell that could get us over the line. And as it turns out, we're pretty much upside down in all of our equipment because of the hours and use we put on it, I imagine. And by upside down, I mean if we sell it, we owe more than we can get for it to buy out the lease. Now, things started out really well that first day. Very shortly after I left you, this cedar came up half price in the used market. So we only paid $6,000 for that cedar, so we bought it outright. And then I found this old John Deere that I could lease to pull it with. I was just looking for a tractor that had enough horsepower that was cheap, and this fit the bill. So I leased this out, and so we got on those seeding contracts right away. And so I actually had three machines running at the same time. Of course, that did eat into our funds some because workers do cost money, but we ripped through those contracts fairly quickly. And so I was so confident in our first day there that when we were done the harvest contracts, I actually parked our harvester and our truck up at the farm I thought we were going to buy. But after we worked our way through that initial list of contracts, we did get a few extra cultivating ones and actually two small plowing ones. And by small, I mean less than 2,000. The contracts just died. And all we got offered were stone picking and wood transport and deadwood. I became so desperate, I started doing the deadwood ones and the stone picking ones, and that's all we did in day 3. For the last part of day 2 and into day 3, and like I said, at about this time, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, no contracts at all, nothing. And so I thought we were hooped, but came in this morning. There were some more. Actually, turned out to be a really nice deadwood one for $6,000 because most of the ones I've been doing, matter of fact, all the ones I've been doing have been less than $2,000, some as low as $750, and a small rock picking one for just a couple thousand, and another like $11,000 one, and that got us across the line. So we're here by the skin of our teeth. But if we look in there now, of course, to add insult to injury, look what's sitting there. Now a $30,000 rock picking one comes up. Yeah, why couldn't that come yesterday afternoon? Of course not. Anyways, I am going to do that rock picking one because we are not going to have very much money left in the account after we buy the farm. But I just wanted to do this while we had daylight. I'm sure that contract's going to go into the night, and I've actually just been borrowing the farmer's equipment to do those. But let's go in and buy our farm. Now I've done a game safe just in case my plan doesn't work out here. Oh, just a second. Here we need to get over here. There it is there. I'll bring this down so you can see it's 778,356. You can see our truck and harvester sitting there. Okay, let's buy that out. All right, so I'm going to meet you up there and let's take a look. Well, there's our new home. No more sleeping in the cab, or in the sleeper of the truck. We're going to have an actual bed. Got a small shed there. We have, looks like a silo system here, and a large red barn, and don't recognize this barn. Does the doors open? Hopefully. Oh yeah, they do. Good. So we can use that for storage. Got a barn there, fuel tank, some type of fill station here. Lime, I imagine. A couple greenhouses. another shed and a cow pen there. I thought there were, oh yeah, and there's, well, looks like a sheep pen over here. All right, so this is farm number one. Now, if we take a look at our money, we are down to 30,000. That is definitely not going to get us through the winter. We need, our lease payments are $10,000 a month, but I know that we can get rid of these animal pens. I just don't know how much we're going to get for them. So let's go in and we know we need to sell those off. So let's sell those right away and see if we're going to get enough money to get through the winter. Oh, that's not bad. 84,000. And where's that sheep one? Right here. 48,000. So that. Okay, that takes us to 162. Well, that's not bad. That'll get us through the winter. And like I said, I am going to get working on that other contract and get that done. I'll likely just put a worker on that and I'll start bringing up our equipment. At least we can get some of it parked undercover here. So I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to do anything else at this point, and we'll jump into next month and we'll see what the future holds for us there. But we have enough funds now in the bank account, especially with that rock picking one, that we can coast through the winter. So because I just don't know what November is going to hold as far as contracts on this map. So let me get that stone picking one on the go, get our stuff up here, and I will see you probably tomorrow morning when it's light out, because I'm sure it'll be dark by the time we get all that done. So we'll catch up with you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the farm. It is the next day. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, November 1st here, and I have all our gear up here at our new location. And I've got everything tucked away for the winter. I did that for a reason. I just wanted to see if we could get everything tucked away with the sheds we have here. And you can see there's lots of it here in this open fronted shed, but everything is undercover. The only thing that doesn't fit perfectly is our spray trailer here. You can see it sticks out just a tiny little bit, but the wood decking at that point is mostly covered by that plastic tank. So I think we can live with that. Now, almost everything else is in here. You can see it's stacked up in the shed. Our sprayer, our large harvester, the Kenworth's in here. Our pressure washer is in here. You can see I've knocked the dirt off of everything. Our truck looks black again. That is all tucked away there. And on this side, I'm just using this end here for our storage of like our herbicide, fertilizer, our seed, that sort of thing. Now, by rights, this should have to be heated in the wintertime, but I could kind of close this front area off and put kind of a space in the heater in here to keep our liquids from freezing. Now this shed here houses the only other thing, and our old John Deere is tucked away in here. Now it's the only thing small enough to get in here, like to get in this low door. I suppose we could put balers and that sort of thing in here potentially, but my thinking is this shed might go. I do kind of like it, but it's not that practical for us, so yeah, I think it might go. And what I'm leaning towards right now, and I have to make a correction, this is actually a bale and pallet storage, this shed here. I found that out when I went to drive into it. But there is a base game version of this that is just a shed. And so I might sell this one off and put one of them over here potentially. But right now I don't have any shed mods turned on, so I'm going to go in the mod hub and see what other things I might find that could potentially fit on here. I like the more kind of established older kind of look here, because it's basically the only modern looking shed we have. and so I kind of like to keep that. But I'm in no hurry. That's why I parked everything up. I wanted to make sure there's enough room to get it under cover. There is, so I don't need to do anything about it for this winter. Now, we had a couple greenhouses here, and as luck would have it, they actually were just about full of water, so I have turned them on. This one, I'm actually running garlic because February is the best price for garlic, and garlic is also something that, you can store a little bit. So I've got garlic on the go there, and then I've got both mushrooms on the go in here. Now, these are the base game variants of these greenhouses, so they're not going to be very fast, but they only take water. We may look at upgrading those at some point, but for now, we'll just leave them because they got water in them and it'll give us a little money. Now, I guess we should take a look at the contracts because there has been some activity there. Oh, and I should mention we're at almost an even 180,000 right now. So more than enough to get us through the winter. But for contracts, we currently have a fertilizing contract. So I'm definitely going to dig the sprayer out and do that. And there's a harvesting contract for corn. So we could potentially borrow the farmer's equipment and do that. Um, I'm kind of leaning towards doing that because I've already borrowed the farmer's equipment to do all the rock picking. So at this point, we've already set a precedent. So I might borrow and do those just to get our money up. Because what I'm thinking I might do is maybe look at paying out some of our leases to get that monthly down. Because it is, like I said, 10 grand a month. Or I might just sit on the funds. But at this point, I'm going to leave you there for the time being, and I'm going to tick off those two contracts and probably work my way through the month here a little bit, and then I'll have a better idea what's in store contract-wise for this month, obviously, and where we're at money-wise, and can make some decisions there. I do know what animals I want to run on this farm. Uh, but I'm not going to tell you that yet because I don't think we'll do that till spring, is my thinking right now. That we'll put that in first thing in the spring, kind of when our funds are starting to tick up again. Um, one other thing I was going to mention that we might do this month. If we go and look at the map here, when you buy the farm, you don't get any fields per se, but you get a large area of kind of like the verges. And there's a fair bit of grass around on here, like along the main road that leads north from the shop and around like field 17 and field 20. I mean, we could get a fair number of bales. Now, I looked at the price of if we just mowed it and baled up the grass, there's only a $10 per 1,000 liter advantage to turn it to hay. Now, it's double the advantage if we turn it to silage, but we need to then get a wrapper or a bale wrapper, a fair bit of money we'd need to invest where we could get a mower pretty reasonably priced. So that's something if no further contracts come in, we might look at doing because there's some areas here too where the animal pens were that we can mow up and get some grass and off and get some money for. So that's something I potentially might do. And if I do that, I'll show that on camera. I think there's an area, out back here, there's some grass that we could get. So that's something we may do if the contracts dry up. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, I'm going to knock those ones out and work my way a little further through the month. And we'll catch up with you then, and we'll see where we're at and what might go on throughout the winter. So catch up with you in a little bit. Well, good morning. It's actually day 2 here of November, and we got a couple contracts, harvesting contracts, I should say, yesterday that I did. And then I realized, you know what? We haven't really showed very much farming to date. So another harvest contract came up today for soybeans. So I have the equipment down here at the field, and I thought, well, let's do some of this together. Maybe we'll finish up with even a bit of a cinematic to finish it off. But if we look at the contract menu, you can see we are getting, not a huge number, but we are getting contracts in. We had 2 fertilizing contracts yesterday and 2 harvesting contracts. And now you can see we have a couple cultivating contracts and a stone picking one again. So it does look like we're going to have some work this month to do. So that is good news. But let's jump in the harvester here and get it fired up and do a little soybean harvesting. Actually, this has got a fairly small header on it. We can start out by taking a look in cab. So that is a really good news that we're getting some contracts in. We're up to about 218,000 now in that neighborhood. And I have been thinking, and I think we are going to stand pat for the winter. Because there is something that might pop up during the winter months that if it does, I'd like to have some funds to take advantage of. I know that's a bit cryptic, but I want to leave it as a surprise because I imagine it will happen at some point. Just don't know if it'll be this winter or not, but I'd like to have some funds available to do what I'm planning on doing. And it won't hurt for us to come out the other side of winter with some funds in the bank, because we do want to put in our animal pen and get some animals. And of course, the more funds we have to buy animals with, the more we can put in initially. So that's why I've decided I think I'll just hang tough here for the winter time. Now I may do a few deadwood contracts throughout the winter. I don't think I'll be doing any of the $750 or $1,000 ones, but if that $6,000 one comes up again, I'll definitely do that. That's worth doing. But you know what? As always, my plans are subject to change. So I think this will end up being a bit of a shorter episode because I think I'll leave you after we're done with this harvest here, and then I'll just carry on and, like I said, do whatever contracts come up. Just sit on the funds unless there's a deal that comes up that's just way too good to pass up, but otherwise we'll leave the money there for spring and we'll see what we do with it then. Again, if depends on what the game does through the winter. We may see you sometime during the winter if a particular thing happens that I know may happen. I know that's rather cryptic, but I do want to kind of keep it as a surprise. I just, like I did for this contract, for the other harvesting contracts, I just used the farmer's equipment. Hopefully, though, this will be the last we have to do of that. But we certainly haven't done a lot. We have managed to go on our own for the majority of the contracts. I've also decided I don't think I'll pursue that grass because we've got a few contracts to get our funds up, and because one thing I didn't think about, it's fairly easy to get a mower and mow all those areas and bale them up, but then I got to go and pick all the bales up from all over Timbuktu, and that's more cost and not going to be very convenient for not a realistically not a whole lot of money. So I think I'll just leave that alone. Leave that idea lay for now. Well, we should take a look from the outside. Well, I think I'll leave you there for this portion, and I will do the rest in a short cinematic. So sit back and enjoy some tunes. Well, there we go. This contract harvest is done. Now, my intention is to carry on and do as many contracts as become available this month, and then meet you in spring with whatever money we've accumulated. Unless, of course, one specific thing happens that I know sometimes happens on this map, or so I've heard. And if that happens during the winter, we'll break in and we'll have some fun with that. But if that doesn't happen, I will see you in spring and we'll start building up our farm and carry on with the contracting, unfortunately. But we should be able to start now weaning ourselves from the dependence on that now that we have our first farm. So if you're still with me, I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want to see when other content like this lands, why hit that old notification bell. But for this episode here on Maizy Lou Farms, it's Farmer Murphy signing off.